Oi, oi, hello and welcome back to the Which Bookie YouTube channel. We are here for the final instalment of our Antepost Insight season. This has been a good series, to be fair. I'm going to talk through the bets like I have done in all the other episodes, but I just need to let you know now, this episode's a special one. We've got fellow Which Bookie horse racing analyst Will Smith on the show. I've managed to pick him for 40 minutes of his time. I think we pretty much got, so good watch of it, to go through each of the days. And the same as that I've done this, where I go through each day, each race, if I think there's something to talk about in there, trying to pinch a bit of values. You get to see my reactions real time, and off the back of me advising some bets, you'll get an idea of the horses that I fancy. I've recorded with Will before. I wanted to do this introduction after. He's put up some good insight in there. And while we've not hard and fast pushed him to get a selection out of there, definitely a few selections that I think we can take off of him. The way that he talks about a couple of horses, especially in non-running money back markets, is telling. So really excited about that. To kick off the start of this though, we are going to talk about the performance from the selections we've got listed, what it would cost now compared to what it would have cost as I've advised through the year. The ultimate point of this is A, bit of entertainment, B, to talk Cheltenham because I can't get enough of it, and C, to hopefully find a bit of value. Now, to get value, you need to buy something at a cheaper price than it would cost you to buy now. Obviously, you can get things like inflation that get factored in with everything else in daily life, but in this instance, I've tried to advise some bets through the series that will make profit when we come to Cheltenham. And by the fact that I'll say they'll make profit, it's just that it would cost us more to get the chances when we come to Cheltenham. So on a law of averages and over a long period of time, if you're beating the markets, you will make money long term. Antepost is obviously risky because some horses don't make it to their targets. And also you can get some very, overinflated price changes for horses that may not be favourites or may not go and win their races still. But ultimately, we're just hoping that, we roll the dice and in the grand scheme of things, we're going to get some results out of it. Talking of how we do that, I compare the stakes on what it would cost to win the same amount. So we'll always start off with Alcaraz, who was the first one put up 25 to 1. So 25 points of profit would be in there. We're going to work out now how many points you'd have to stake to get the same £25 profit. So it's not to get the 26 in total back, the point on and the point profit. It's to work out how much it is to make the same amount of money. So he stayed at the same price, advised at 25 to 1. He was 11 to 2 in the last show. He's still 11 to 2 top price. 4.55 points it would cost now compared to the 1. So you'll get the guide off of the back of that. We're trying to make sure that as we get to the festival, it saved you some money by backing the horses that I've advised, even if we don't necessarily get everybody there, which is why it's important sometimes to look at backing multiple horses in races, which I know can be a bit confusing to some people or maybe against what people think they need to do. But a lot of you watching these series know how to bet Antepost. A lot of you that have watched my content can trust that I know what I'm talking about in these too. And fingers crossed, it's a good bit of fun through the season. Fingers crossed we make a few quid as well. So we've talked about El Kairos. Copet de Board has been nibbled back in. He advised at 7 to 2. He was 7 to 2 in the last episode, so he sat the same. Back down to 9 to 4. He's been as low as 2 to 1 at a point, but 1.56 it would cost now. William Money was advising the Champion Hurdle, not in there. As a setback, hasn't he? It's going to be an interesting one for next season, I suppose, but it would have cost £1 from when I did it before, or a point, and now it's nothing. Ilese Tomps, advised at 10s, went down to as short as 11 to 4, been 7 to 1 for the last 2 episodes, 1.43 it would cost now, so an improvement still. Ballyburn, nibbled in a little bit from the last couple of episodes, was as big as 20, then went 16s, now 14s. Advised at 5 to 1 though, so you'd have been better off waiting in theory for him. 0.36 it would cost now. He's one of those horses that will sit in the pile of, he might not actually go there, so we could even further bolster the percentage we've got at the end by saying, let's remove those ones and see how accurate we can be because he might not go there. Horse that will go, Dino Blue to the Mare's Chase, advised at 7 to 2, now 7 to 4. 2 points is the difference to stake now, so double it would cost. Gaelic Warrior advised at 16s, now 8 to 1. Again, it would be double the points. It would be 2 points on this horse now, but that's advised for the Gold Cup. May or may not happen. Him, like Ballyburn, might be an amount that you could take out, so 2.36 we could drop off this whole thing. Fou de Trois was advised for the Supreme, a bit of cover with El Kairos in a previous episode, not in there, so he's like would have cost you nothing now, so he's a nonner. No Drama This End was advised at 6s, went as short as 7 to 2. Now it's been a bit of a deeper race. The Turners back out to 5, so still advised at a better price. 1.2 it would cost now. The Jukebox Man was advised at 20 to 1 for the Ryanair. Bit of a niche one, trying to get that one in before the King Georgie type scenario. No, he was advised at 16, sorry, before the King George went and won that. So ruined that one. So 0 for that one it would cost now. Wendigo was advised at 20s, now 7 to 1. So 2.86 would cost on that one. Brighter Days Ahead advised at 14s, now 3 to 1. 4.67. So the best increase just ahead of El Kairos. Galopin de Champs was advised at 6 for the Gold Cup, went out to 10s in the last episode, back down to 8 now as the top price, 0.75, so give or take, you could have been better to wait for that one. Then we advised 3 in the last episode, all at 7-1. Selma de Vary still 7-1 top price, so 1 for 1. Love Sign Danu was 7s, now top price 5-1, so 1.4. And Madara was advised at 7s, now top price 6-1, so 1.17. So all told with this, the percentages that's been increased, there's been 16 points that have been advised on these singles. It would currently cost you £24.93 to stake to get the same amount of potential profit point back. So that puts us at 155.8 or 156%. So we're 56% ahead on the value. If we drop the £2.36 off of there, if we just drop off £2.50 for the sake of it, then 22.4 is what we would be sat at from the 16, 140, so we're 40% ahead. And that's what the aim is, right? If we get back through as 100%, then we're still fine. It doesn't cost us anything. Taking a few chances. We have lost a bit of value in doing that for some of the horses like El Kairos and Brighter Days Ahead that drop in. But you're never going to get it perfect. You're never going to get it spot on. But with Will's opinions now, we're going to have some more views. We've also got our Cheltenham Festival preview coming out fairly soon as well. We've got the handicap entries that have come out, so loads of good content coming out. So I've already mentioned this on multiple videos, but I'll do it again now. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Like the video because that helps us out. There's hype points as an option as well. If you can do that, that helps us out again. Drop comments below of what you fancy. Loads of good bets have been advised in this. Act of Innocence was put up by one of the commenters before we ran in the Sydney Banks. He's shortened up significantly for the turners off the back of that. So I want to hear your opinions. That's what this game is all about. I love talking horses. I'll respond to as many of your comments as I possibly can. Any questions for Will, pop them in there. I'll either get them covered in this or when we do our Cheltenham Festival preview, I will pose them to him. And yeah, let's get cracking on with Will. Speaking of Great Bet, they are a bookmaker who offer 5% losses paid back to you in cash, not free bets, at the end of each full month betting with them. On a horse racing front, they offer loads of concessions. They have best odds guaranteed, double odds for your lucky 15, 31 or 63 for a single winner, first past the post, extra place races, and there is a link in the description to their website where you can find full terms and conditions for all of their offers. We're now joined by fellow Whichbookie horse racing analyst Will Smith as we continue our Antepost Insight series. I've mentioned plenty of bets up to now, which we've covered off in the first part of the show. In an okay position from an Antepost perspective in there. As I touch on in every single video, though, this is obviously our views looking a few weeks out from the festival. We did it from more than a few weeks out when we started the series. Just giving you our rundown with what we like to think of each of the markets. There could be some potential bets that come out of there. And as I always mention, it's always quite off the cuff, not so much a pre-planned selection in there. But as we go through each day, we'll look and see if we can find some bets. Now, in this special episode, because we've got Will here, I will be keeping my opinions to a minimum. We're going to go through in the same sort of theme where we cover each day chronological order, but only looking at the races where Will's got some opinions in there. And if we can manage to nab a selection or two off of Will in this video, I'm going to make sure we do that. There is already some selections on the Whichbookie website for Antepost bets. I don't know how many Cheltenham ones we've got. I know Romeo Coolio for the Arkle was in there at 20s early in the season, but we can pick up those as we get through. But please do check out the whichbookie.co.uk website for all selections, whether that be daily or Antepost. And by the time it comes through to the festival, well, in less than 3 weeks now, we will have bets aplenty in probably every single race. So, Are you excited about Cheltenham first and foremost?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, it feels like a long time coming, doesn't it? The build-up seems to get longer and longer each year. I mean, it's at the point now where the build-up starts the day after the Gold Cup finishes, doesn't it? So, probably a little bit lighter on Antepost bets up until now than I sometimes have been previously. Definitely lighter. One's fallen by the wayside, Air of Entitlement in the mares. Unfortunately, she hasn't quite been the same horse this year for whatever reason, isn't in the entries. We've got Romeo Coolio, as you mentioned there, at 20s for the Arkle. I mean, that's been a real roller coaster ride sitting on that over the course of the season because he is very, very good, isn't he? And then there's been all the talk about, is he going to go for the Arkle? Is he going to step up to 3 miles? Is he going to run the Ryanair? Of course, he's got that entry. Is he going to stay at home for the Grade 1 at Fairyhouse? So who knows? I think it's erring towards the Arkle, fingers crossed, but equally the Arkle is shaping up to be pretty much one of the races of the festival. So not entirely sure how happy I am or not with that, that particular bet, but hopefully we've got a runner. And then I've also got Haiti Couleur in the Gold Cup. I think that was 20-1 or so as well. So that's 25-1 it was, Haiti Couleur. That I think I put that up just before the Betfair Chase run. So he did go out to bigger after that, but then has come back in accordingly after 2 good wins. I think he's just a really improving chaser in a Gold Cup division this year that is wide open, isn't it? So he's a good one. And then the Potemps handicap, it was one that I put up a few probably 5 or 6 weeks ago now. Supremely West, the main one for the Skeltons, which I'm sure a lot of people have picked up on throughout the course of the season. And El Capitan at 66-1 is a real wild one. I saw he was in the entries yesterday when they were confirmed, but whether he's going to get into the race, whether it's the plan or not, I don't know. But he's been a lot better than the bare form so far this year. But plenty more to add. There'll be, hopefully, by the time we come to each day of race market, there'll be something in every race, whether it be Antepost, an out and out daily pick, or perhaps looking at some of those more exotic markets like the without or race markets or things like that. So, watch this space. There'll be plenty more to come over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. And one thing that is to come in the next couple of weeks, or maybe even sooner than that, is we'll be having another Cheltenham Festival preview on the channel. Me and Will go through each race in detail, telling you what we fancy for each of those. Like Will said, our final selections will be on the website. You can check that stuff out, though, now, because everything that gets added before Cheltenham, so an Antepost bet's already on there, and all the daily tips go up there too. But, Will, I always get so excited about Cheltenham, just full stop. This one feels good. Like you mentioned about potentially getting bets, it's a bit lighter on the ground than it has been maybe even last year, but in like recent years, I guess is the best way to bucket it. It's a bit trappy, isn't it, sometimes with the Antepost bet, and it seems to be getting tighter. The bookies seem to be getting smarter, and with social media, these types of previews, the lot, people are telling the bookies what they fancy, and the bookies are cutting off the back of that and probably not even laying a bet is what it feels like. But let's hope we can find some value somewhere, or at least we can give some early opinions out there to a few of the viewers. So Tuesday, not going to force you to go through every single race, but where would you like to kick off on Tuesday? Anywhere in particular?
Yeah, well, it's got to be the Supreme, hasn't it? Starting point, the kind of race. So I imagine that everyone will want to have some kind of a bet in to get to get the week off to a decent start, whether it be now or come the final declarations. And it probably is a market actually at this stage that I certainly wouldn't advise against getting involved in it, because I think obviously Old Park Star, the 15-8 general favourite, he looked very, very good. Yes, he's put up some decent performances on the clock and visually. But I think there's plenty of horses in here at sort of bigger prices, a group of 5 or 6 of them that have probably done as much as he has in terms of pure substance of what they've done on the racetrack. Talk the Talk is one that I'd probably just include underneath that particular bracket, because on the clock he's yet to really stand up to inspection, but that's because he hasn't had a well-run race as yet. It looks as if he's the type of horse that will appreciate it, because he's won 2 slow races, being able to quicken up, was about to win 2 races before he fell at Christmas time. And he'd have a good record if that wasn't the case. And he was doing it in a manner where he quickened up from the rear and showed a good turn of foot. Now, whether he can show that turn of foot again off a breakneck gallop, that's not absolutely cast iron for me. So the likes of El Kairos, very similar comments, really. Not proven off an end-to-end gallop as yet, not run a standout time. So the likes of Sober Glory, Idaho Sun, Leader Dallier, King Rasco Grey, if he went here, they'd all be horses that actually I think could end up shortening up. And probably the one that most notably for me, anyway, is Idaho Sun for Harry Fry. Already a Grade 1 winner, of course, Formby Novices Hurdle winner. He's available widely at around about 14-1. I think you can get that non-runner, no bet as well, which is a good concession to have. On the clock, he's been very good in all of his hurdle starts, and he ran in the Champion Bumper last year and made up a lot of ground from further back than the other horses that he's reopposing, the likes of El Kairos and 1 or 2 others. So he looks to me like the classic end-to-end galloper at 2 miles that you need for this type of a race. So I could see him shortening. If I were to have a bet right now, then he'd probably be the one, Idaho Sun.
Ooh, I like that. Well, we can loosely take that as a selection going up, but we won't force you to pin your colours to the mast. My first bet on this series came in the Supreme as well. I put up El Kairos at 25s just after the Maxwell dispersal. I thought he was quite a good horse. I'm pleased that he's shortened up, but definitely not been ideal for him, is it? This is a proper decent Supreme this year, isn't it? Yeah. I thought Sober Glory was so good at Newbury. I still think the 12-1 about him's massive, but you are right. Old Park Star warrants his favouritism at 15-8. The ones that are in behind probably priced about where they should be, because they do fall a little bit short of what he's done. And then those ones that are the double figure prices, some of them are going to shorten. Depends obviously where everyone goes, but there's like probably 4 or 5 or 6 horses that you wouldn't be surprised if they won the Supreme. Normally you get maybe 3, don't you? So it's a decent looking race. And a fair case for Idaho Sun made there as well. Where do we go next? Do we go to the Arkle?
I think at the Arkle, like I said, with what I mentioned a couple of minutes ago in terms of Romeo Coolio, I think the market's probably about right, isn't it, now? With Lou Lamba heading it, Copec des Bourgs just in behind, and then the likes of Cargesi and Romeo Coolio right in there on their heels.
Right, so where are we headed then?
Well, I think, I mean, the handicap entries were out yesterday, but I'm not going to make too much reference to those, I don't think, until I've had a proper good look at them and we go through them in the daily preview. So keep an eye out for that. But Champion Hurdle, I think, is a market to definitely have a look at. Again, not with a recommended bet as such. But I did think, on all things that I can see, and I understand why she isn't, but I think Brighter Days Ahead should be favourite.
Agreed.
Yeah, she's obviously beaten Lossiemouth last time out. Beaten her the last twice over at Leopardstown. And last time out, she proved that Christmas time wasn't a case of Lossiemouth just needing the run and she was going to turn around the form. You know, she ultimately beat her hands down, I thought, at the DRF, Brighter Days Ahead. And there's this train of thought that obviously Cheltenham might not suit her because of her 2 runs over there. She hasn't produced her best. But there's 1 or 2 well-documented things that have suggested why that might have been the case. Obviously, in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, I mean, Jack Kennedy and Paul Townend were, they were riding a race to beat each other, and they forgot about Golden Ace, who has proved to be a very good horse, a champion hurdler, no doubt. So you can sort of forgive her that. And last year in the champion hurdle, it was a very, very funny race, but she came back unsound from that. She wasn't right whatsoever in that particular contest. So if she can be got there right on the day, I do think she should be favourite. So if that's kind of your bag, the fact that she isn't, to me, that's a value play. You can get 3-1, 11-4, 3-1, I think, non-runner, no bet. Is she going to be shorter on the day with the New Lion? If Constitution Hill wins at Southall, if Lossiemouth runs, I don't know. I could see her being a bit of a mover into sort of 9-4, 2-1 favourite.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I was having a conversation with another racing friend the other day, saying exactly the same. I feel like she should be about a 2-1 poke for the race. I thought she was a bit of value at the prices. It's just murky at the moment, isn't it? Because if Lossiemouth does come here, for all that Brighter Days Ahead put her in her place because of the Cheltenham form and depending on how the ground gets and all those types of bits in there, I could see Lossiemouth reversing the form at Cheltenham if she doesn't run to her best. But I'm happy to excuse Brighter Days Ahead. Constitution Hill, I don't even know if he's even going to run anymore from what Nicky Henderson's saying, and it's all a bit of a Mickey Mouse thing. It's hard because even with a horse like him, you look at Goshen, that would have been one of the most impressive Triumph winners, it wasn't very good after that. And sometimes something happens to these horses, doesn't it, where they've clearly got all the ability and then it just doesn't necessarily pan out. He's like the Dele Alli of horse races, isn't he? It's one of those. But I agree. I think it's one of those markets, and I actually feel like the field could cut up a lot. It could be the New Lion, Brighter Days Ahead, and then Golden Ace is the third in. And I know Connections might decide to throw Lossiemouth in if it starts to deepen, but they're not running scared of Constitution Hill, are they? No. I don't think the New Lion's done anything to warrant being as short as he is. I think he could be weak on the day. And she's just the type of horse, isn't she? Especially Gordon Elliott in a weak enough champion hurdle. It's the first day as well. You can see her getting smashed up. Like Tiap, who gets nibbled on the day, well, say nibbled, he gets back to the day. She got well supported in the Mayor's Novice. I think she's going to come for money at some point. It's just the case now of when's the time to do it, because as soon as someone confirms that either Constitution Hill or Lossiemouth comes out, she's immediately going to short it, isn't she? So I'm on the same page with you. We did manage to get her in the book earlier, though. I think we got her in at 12s or 14s. Excellent. So felt fairly happy with that one. I did mention back in Constitution at that time because he was 10-1 as well, but we didn't. So good to hear that, Will. Confirmation bias is always the best thing to have. There's a couple more left on the Tuesday, even though it's not quite the same feast that it used to be. Would there be anything else that's worth mentioning so far, do you think?
No, well, we've got 4 handicaps left, haven't we, now on the with the Fred Winter or the Boodles, the National Hunt Chase, the Ultimate, and the Plate has moved to day one, which is an interesting movement from the new course to the old course. So I have to kind of go through the entries for that and the Novices Handicap Chase as well. And I'll let you know in due course. But definitely there'll be some angles in the Boodles and Ultimate. I mean, the Ultimate was a race where for a while I've been tossing up about backing Jaguar or not. and he's just now into a price where I can't back him right now. He'll probably be a similar kind of price on the day. He looks like he's going to appreciate the step up in trip, but should he be 4-1 and then 12-1 and plus all of the others? Not sure. I think there'll be some interesting prices and place offers on the day in that particular race. So
yeah, I agree. The one interesting one that's been on my radar, just for viewers, because obviously when we do this, it is like feelings at the time. Maya Town, obviously, just things haven't gone to plan this season with the horse, but favourite for a Coral Gold Cup at the start of the season. You'd think, well, like clearly was a well handicapped horse. I know didn't really get the trip last time out after falling at Haydock, but that's another part of it. Like in and around the realms of where the horse made fallen at Haydock, made a big mistake. In and around the time on the track where the horse made the mistake, maybe why they petered out. But this is a race we've had loads of like repeat performances where horses have run well, haven't they, in the past? I think was it Antepost 2 for David Pipe won it a couple of times. But it's one of those types of races where horses come back. I can't believe he's 14s, but I don't think that's non-runner money back. I think he's 12s non-runner money back. He's just going to be the obvious one that's going to be well supported, I think. So he'll go off single figures, I'm sure. But then it is just the question of, is he just the same horse as he was last year? I don't know. But yeah, I'm starting to think about him. But yeah, again, with the handicap stuff, still just about keeping my powder dry. But next week he won't be.
I would mention the other horse entered in there, actually, that's on my radar for handicaps is Knight of Allen for Jay Williams. He's only rated 127 over fences. I think in time is going to be 140 plus horse. He's only had the 4 chase starts, which is enough, obviously, to get him in the Ultima. Now, they went to Newbury last time out on heavy ground, and he was ridden a lot more quietly than he has sometimes been, which... Interestingly, he was at Cheltenham on New Year's Day in the Novices Chase there behind Miami Magic as well. So I think he's a horse that they're gradually bringing him along. They gave him Cheltenham experience. They set him a decent task at Newbury on heavy ground over nearly 3 miles there. To me, you could probably suggest he didn't quite stay on that occasion, but I think he did. I think he just wasn't ridden, with absolutely eyes out. Let's go and try and put in a career-defining performance on that day. The Cheltenham Festival is where you try and do that. And he's got an ultimate entry and a novices handicap chase entry. So I'd imagine I think the ultimate will suit him because he's a novice. They have a pretty decent record in the race, actually. Unexposed nature, stepping up to that kind of trip. If he got in the ultimate, he'd be of real interest. But he'd also be, if he went to the fullback option of the novice handicap chase, I'd probably end up backing him there as well. You can get 33-1 plus about him for both races. You could even play the line of backing him non-runner money back in both. I think he's really well handicapped and he's about to improve a good chunk.
I love that. See, this is exactly why we do the Antepost Insight videos as we do them, because once you start getting into a race, all of a sudden people will be like, Will fancies that one, doesn't he? We can tell by the tone and the nature. We can't help but talk about these horses we fancy. So that's a good one. I mean, that's pretty much down. If he's the non-runner money back concession as well, like you've said there, back him in both races. One thing I will quickly say on that, which is definitely sidetracking slightly, so frustrating with the amount of firms that don't pay out until the festival for the non-runner money back. Certain shops where I go and back non-runner money back, you have to wait till after the result of the race before they'll give it back. But even the online accounts hold your money. So just be mindful of that you'll have to wait till after the day to get your stakes back if you've got a bankroll you're trying to sort of dip in and out of. Right, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, if they did it normal days of the week. Wednesday, do you want to have a quick look at the quick mention of the Turners? Because that's lining up to be a pretty tasty race.
Yeah, it is. Hard to know exactly what's going to run. Obviously, likes of Mighty Park, Ballyfad, King Rasco Grey, they could all go for either race really still. No drama this end, will be there or thereabouts, you'd imagine, in terms of market leadership. Look, for me, he's the type of horse you've got to be itching to try and take on because he's priced up a little bit more on reputation than what he's done so far. Doesn't mean he's not going to go and do it by any stretch, but some of those that are just sort of half catching my eye at bigger prices, if they went here, the couple of the Irish novices that have flown a bit under the radar, Sortudo, I'll Sort That, Shuttle Diplomacy, they're all horses definitely that have caught the eye and probably done close to as much on the track as some of those towards the top of the market, but they've just not been the ones that people have talked about or latched onto yet. So keep an eye on those, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a tricky race, that one, because I put no drama this end up around Christmas time, maybe, because I thought 6-1 about him. I thought there's not really too many lurkers in behind, and now they've all been lurking and coming back out, haven't they? And he's like shortened up a point, but looks like a deeper race. Mighty Park off the back of one run as well. When you look in context of Mighty Park and El Kairos, given what they've actually done, to be 11-2 for a Supreme and 4-1 for a Turners is mad, especially when you consider it is a real deep division. I'm nervous that Dr. Steinberg might come in from what Willie Mullins has been saying. I think the exchange markets would suggest he does go to the Bartlett, and Paul Townend said that he can settle him. But I mean, if he decided to come here, I don't know whether you look at that as a positive or not. He's clearly got an engine, but if you're running him in the wrong race just because he's too keen, I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. But he's another one that could make a difference in the market. It's going to be a good looking race, that one. I think I'm siding with Ballyfad a bit at the moment, but there is genuinely, again, like the Supreme 4 or 5 horses, maybe they're all priced about where they should be at the moment, that could probably win this one. It's a good looking year for the novice hurdlers for once, and that's going to be exciting going into next year for the novice chases. Brings us nicely onto the Brown Advisory. Do you want to talk about anything in there, given the fact that Final Demand flopped? It was a market that looked one-sided, but now it's wide open.
Yeah, no, it really is, actually. And again, a horse that I'm sort of kicking myself to some degree that I haven't backed as yet. And I think because of that, I'm going to hold off, for the now, because I don't think he'll go off too much shorter come the day. And that's Wendigo, who long has been a horse that I felt is going to be suited to this particular race. But the big shadow of Final Demand kind of loomed over the race for a while, didn't it? And then I thought, when he put in what he did at the DRF, I was kicking myself thinking, well, you can't ever be scared of one horse in terms of putting up an Antepost bet, because all it takes is, a poor performance or a small niggle or an injury or what have you. Not that you'd ever wish that to happen. But yeah, Wendigo for me, I mean, he was mightily unlucky not to go a lot closer in last year's Albert Bartlett. He got hampered at the wrong time. He was on the wrong part of the track, and he still ended up finishing well for 4th. So, his key attributes are, well, he's classy, but he stays really strongly, doesn't he? And his jumping's been really good this year. I think Jamie Snowden's campaigned him quite cleverly, because the Corto Star Novices Chase was never going to suit him. 3 miles round Kempton, wrong way round on ground that was probably lively enough, but it just gave him that experience of going that half a stride quicker, and I think that will really stand to him in the Brown Advisory. He went up to Ayr, obviously, for a bit of a Mickey Mouse race, really, and he cantered round. That gave him a 4th run, just in case they wanted to go for some of the handicaps. I see he's entered in the Ultima, but by all accounts, it's all roads lead to the Brown Advisory. If the ground came up soft, I'd be wary of the Big Westerner. I think she's good, but I think the one that I'll back at some stage is Wendigo.
Nice. Well, it's another one that got put up on the show, Will. I mentioned Wendigo after exactly that Counter Star Novice Chase for exactly the same reasons as you. You look at horses like Bobsworth was beaten there. You look at Top of the Game. Like, that's a prep run for some of the Cheltenham horses that maybe carry a bit of condition, or it's not going to suit your Gold Cup horses, really. I know there's Counter Star, Counter Star himself, but like the horses that do go and do those bits that can be fine in the Gold Cup. But yeah, I thought that was well impressive. I tweeted after that race, because he was still 40-1 for the Brown Advisory after coming third. He got pushed out. We got 20s on the show for that one. Then, of course, like with Final Demand, I was saying, I thought like he's probably fair given the fact that we all expect him to be some sort of machine. But and like you say, with niggles and all those parts in there, it's worth having a little bit of a poke. I still think 7-1's fair enough on there. The Big Western as well. There was a comment from, I think it was Henry de Bromhead on the Stable Tour, was saying that he's like, it wasn't like shouting confidence with her, but I think he was saying that if like he'd want it to become a bit of a bog for her, her best chance. It's hard, isn't it, with horses like that when they are so potentially ground dependent, to really look at them, and even in the context of what might be a weaker Brown Advisory because Final Demand's underperformed, you still got to be able to perform in most conditions. And I genuinely think Wendigo's the mould of a Brown Advisory horse. I mean, I wasn't hoping that he'd underwhelm this season, but the price that he was at the start of the season and the price that he was after that Counter Star, I was thinking, I must be missing something about him. Maybe he's just not that good, but I think he is. I reckon there's no way he's out the 3. I just hope he gets a bit of luck and manages to get the job done. And again, some more confirmation bias, which is exactly why me and you work so well together.
Just marking your homework.
That's it, yeah. A few more good races on the Wednesday. Obviously, we've got the handicaps of the cross country, the Coral Cup, the Grand Annual. The bumper's a tricky one to talk about too. I know that's not exactly your biggest specialist subject. Champion Chase, though.
I mean, you should say that.
Oh, you've got one for the bumper.
Well, I don't have one as such, but I've definitely got 2 that I think at this stage, you know me, I love to have kind of the nuts and bolts sorted in terms of what they've actually done on the track, in terms of time, performance, and visuals, etc., etc., etc. And bumpers, they're not my bag really, because you don't often have that. Whereas with the champion bumper, it's a little bit more open to interpretation of what they've done on the track. And 2 horses that I think are are probably overpriced, and we'll hope they still stay that way. Gordon Elliott's Keep Him Company and Chris Gordon's Bass Hunter, because they've put up their 2 wins, the last 2 wins they've both had. They've put up some really good numbers for bumper horses. In particular, Bass Hunter at Ascot was eye-poppingly good. I don't know if Chris Gordon is going to go there with him, though. I've seen 1 or 2 reports suggest that maybe he's the type of horse that he might just mind a little bit. Does he want to go into the cauldron of Cheltenham, the ups and downs of Presby Park at this stage of his career? Not too sure. So definitely holding off on that one. But if he did go there, I'd take it with a real positive element to it. And Keep Him Company, was really good at Leopardstown. And the form has been boosted in a couple of small bits since then. So, two horses that I think are live players in a champion bumper, for all that, we've seen it year in, year out. You could back 5 in that race and think you've got it covered, and then these horses improve at different rates. So I'm not going to say it's a bet as such, but 2 horses that have done enough already to be competitive in that type of race.
Like that. I put Love Sign Danu up just because I thought he'd be a bit of a shorter. I think he was 7s or 8s on the last episode I did a couple of weeks ago. Similar like Madara, I just thought this was the time they're going to the races. They're just the ones that you're going to probably have a couple of darts in the race. You might as well get him in the book at the time. But yeah, Bass Hunter's definitely an interesting one. Frustrating for me if the trainers don't send him to Cheltenham, because not that everything is all about Cheltenham, but when you're a bumper horse, unless you definitely know that they don't like a track like Cheltenham, you should get some experience in them, surely. And if you're deciding to run the horses in bumpers for experience, and you've got one that is potentially performing really well in that sphere while other horses are just wasting a season in bumpers because it is for experience, you could end up beating a future Gold Cup horse in it just because they're not good enough yet. And you've got that on your CV forever, haven't you? So I think Bass Hunter should definitely go there, but it is those concerns, isn't it, of whether they send him there or not. And the Gordon Elliott shout's a great shout, to be fair. 12 to 1 non-runner money back, I think, is the top price on that one. For a fact at the moment, we've only got 1 single figure price horse. There'll be at least 2 or 3 on the day, won't there? And something will get smashed up. And normally whatever gets smashed up with the bumper does go well. So I like that. Do we want to defect slightly back to the Champion Chase and never mention on there, or should we leave that, given that Madsborough seems to have it his own way now? Is there any value?
Yeah, he does and he doesn't. Obviously, if he produces what he produced at the DRF, then he does. You may as well give him the check now. But, cheek pieces second time, will they work as well? Will the undulating track suit as well? There's 1 or 2 elements that you'd think, well, he's not going to absolutely cast iron produce that again. If he does and there's enough juice in the ground, then he will be hard to beat. But, Marine National, if the ground is good to soft, genuine, he'll be better than he was at the DRF without a shadow of a doubt. So very ground dependent, I think, for me, that particular race. And as the 2 are joint, they're not joint favourites, Madsborough's just clear favourite, but I think the market's probably got them just about right. Definitely shouldn't discount Quilixios again at some stage. He might be in a bet in the markets without as we get nearer the time. Classic Henry de Bromhead, all these horses will run well at the festival. We haven't seen them for months, but they'll come out and they'll run. And they'll run really well with a bit of sun on the back and the spring daffodils out and the birds singing, etc. Henry de Bromhead's horses will start flying again.
Yeah. Yeah, he gave a good mention to Quilixios, to be fair, going back for the Champion Chase in that recent stable tour. So fair one with that. I did put up Ilete Tomps earlier in the season, which looked like a fair shout, and then obviously not so good after Ascot. I think he went up at 10s, went down as short as 11 to 4 after he did what he did in the Tingle Creek. Gone back out now. He's a funny horse, isn't he, Ilete Tomps? I'd forgive him for what happened at Ascot personally, so I'd still say he's in there with a chance. And with John Bond, I guess the last 2 runs still showing that there is some fire in his belly. I was happy to downplay Ilete Thompson's performance in hindsight, but now I'm happy to sort of not necessarily upgrade it again, but I'd definitely throw him in the mix. I'd say of horses that have done something on the course already that is Champion Chase standard, I'd say it's Madsborough, Marine National, Ilete Tomps. I mean, Quilixios last year was right up there, wouldn't he? You could say that he possibly would have got the job done as well. So I think it's a good looking race. When you say with or without markets as well, Will, there's going to be some firms that are doing betting without Madsborough and Marine National, aren't there? And when you've got like Ilete Tomps, L'Eau de Sud, Quilixios, there'll be a few others that we sat behind there as well, but there's going to be at least 3 big names that will be split in between them. There's going to be some value in some of those alternative markets. I'm excited about the races this year. I think they look quite good for the first couple of days. On to Thursday, though, Will. Yeah. Where would you like to start here? Because, I mean, technically we start with the Mayor's Novice. Then we've got the Novices Handicap Chase, which is a handicap, a little bit tricky. We've mentioned Night of Aden slightly there. Mares Hurdle's a bit of a trappy one to even have any conviction or value, but there might be some in there, I guess. Where would you like to start?
Yeah, Thursdays are very, very, at this stage, a very quiet day. I could envisage. I'll be open-minded enough to think that could turn around. But yeah, as you said, I mean, if Lossiemouth goes to the mares, then she'll be hard to beat for all that Woodoo is really likable. Mm-hmm. Not quite the class of Lossiemouth. Beyond those, in the mares hurdle, looking down the list at some of them, I mean, plenty probably won't turn up. One of those in the markets without, if she did go here, might be Nurse Susan if the ground was soft. Because I think she's always been held in really, really high regard.
Yeah.
She's got Stayers Hurdle entry as well, obviously on the same day. I don't know if she's been given any handicap entries as well. I think they were talking about handicap entries for her, but I could see her running into sort of third or fourth in the Mares Hurdle behind Lossiemouth and Woodoo if she ran there, if the ground was soft enough. And the new course, given the Mares Hurdle's now on the new course, that would really suit her because she's a strong stayer. So that's probably one angle I'm looking at in the Mares Hurdle. Stayers Hurdle, again, very similar. I think the top of the market's pretty strong, predictably, to Yupu and the couple that are likely to give him the most to think about. Honesty Policy, Bob Ollinger, Marchand too. I could certainly see all of those cases for all of those. Are there any at bigger prices? Not so much, really. Again, Nurse Susan, if she turned up there. I do think she's... she could run a lot better than her current price suggests in that particular race. But yeah, quiet day, I think, Thursday day for me at the minute. Hopefully it changes.
Yeah, it does feel like that, doesn't it? She's really interested in her season. I think she's in the Coral Cup as well. But when they won, Dan Skelton and Harry Skelton won with Roxana, didn't they? I don't know it's when horses are falling in bits of that as well. But in these markets where they're so heavily dominated by the horse that's obviously going to win, even though it's not obvious, is it? Because anything can happen. I think Nurse Susan, I think she's 40s, isn't she, in the outright market for the Mares Hurdle? It's a mega price. And in those concessions, when you've got a Lossiemouth that would go off odds on, in the betting without, she's still going to be a fair price. And she might actually be a good shout, to be fair, because I've been similarly, like some of those races, just avoiding looking at them because I think I just need to find out more of it. The Stayers feels a lot like that. I'm praying that Cabrel de Mathan comes because I think he is a horse that just looks like he could be a worldy stayer if everything just sort of falls right for him. And I really do love Teahupoo, and if he's going to go and win it again, then fair play. But the fact he got beat by Bob Ollinger still winds me up. The fact that he got beat the year before still winds me up. But he puts in these performances, even with what he did at Christmas. Like, you look at me like, he is genuinely like a really good horse. But then on other days, you'd be like, is he actually that good anymore? And it's that inconsistency and that level of him that I don't think you could trust him as a yardstick. But I'm hoping there's going to be a horse that springs in there. And then the Ryanair Chase, who knows what's going to happen with that, with runners and all sorts coming in there. But there's always value in a Ryanair, I think. But it tends to be either a horse is going there and you can take a bit of a punt at a price, or you need to wait till nearer the time. And then, I mean, even last year, Factor Far was a fair price before he got smashed in the betting, and sometimes it does pay to go towards the front of the market. So on to Friday then, Will, you happy with that?
Yep, move on, definitely.
Doesn't get too much easier to find opportunities. The viewers would have noticed this when we talked about stuff, that it would have been 50% Tuesday, 30% Wednesday, and then 10% across the last couple of days. But, I mean, I'd be interested to know, while we got you on here, the Triumph Hurdle, Narciso is one of the good things of the week, according to the bet. At 11 to 8, he is incredibly strong. And obviously he can go and win the race. There might be betting without. It's a bit of a blanket in behind. I know Selma, a very clear second favourite. Proactive's been short enough as well. Maestro Conti still looks like a fairly good horse, I think. Manella Study, Macho Man, Monge 2, Phil Gut, or even Charme de Force as well, the other Rich Reekie horse. There's loads that are sat in behind. So is there anything in your mind away from Narciso in the Triumph, or would you be keen to take him on in the outright anyway?
It's a race where I do like some of those at slightly bigger prices, and I sort of keep going back over the performances of Narciso and trying to find one or two small, chinks to give myself a bit of food for thought, really, in that perspective. And I mean, the level of improvement he's shown in those 3 starts, it's quite hard to knock him, isn't it? which is really annoying from that sense, because I'm dying to take him. Well, I'm not dying to take him on. I'm dying to be positive about one or two at bigger prices. Most notably, Maestro Conti and Manella Study.
Yeah.
2 horses I think have already produced a really high level on the track, and both really lightly raced to go and improve a good step as well. I mean, Maestro Conti's had the 2 starts, obviously, for Dan Skelton, and he improved quite nicely from Kempton to win the Triumph Trial at the trials meeting at Cheltenham in January. He won pretty cosily there, really. And the horse that beat One Horse Town even further the time before, Manila Study, I'm going to trot out that great cliche that if he was trained by Nicky Henderson, he'd be joint favourite, wouldn't he? Manila Study, on what he's actually done on the track. A horse who's won a trial for this by, 6.5 lengths from a horse who's gone out and bolted up in his next start and is now favourite for the Boodles. One Horse Town was 3 lengths further back, who was beaten less by Maestro Conti. It's the classic case, isn't it? I'm sorry for using that cliche, but it's the classic case that he would be. Yeah, he'd be vying for favouritism in Ella Study if he wasn't trained by Adam Nicol up in the beautiful Sea Houses, of course, up near where I live currently. So, got to support the local.
That's it. And it is hard because I painstakingly look at this stuff, especially for Cheltenham. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to the race and full stop as it comes with it. But you don't get too many of the lesser known trainers that go and do it. But when you look at the ones that have got their name on the honours roll, and then you look at the types of horses that have done it, it's just the horse, isn't it? Like, they've got a good enough horse, and the reason they've got the less chance to do it is they haven't got the ammunition. I mean, we know that Willie Mullins wins every single year, but you look at the amount of runners and the actual strike rate that he's got going over there. I mean, it's still more impressive than most, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily fully be put off by a trainer, especially when there's compensation in the price, and that's where it has to factor in, doesn't it? But yeah, the triumph is hard. I feel similar with Narciso Has, not trying to intentionally take him on, but yeah, it's not always as plain sailing in those races. But yeah, it's a tricky one. Mares Chase, Albert Bartlett, Gold Cup would be the ones that are left. The non-handicaps would exclude the Hunters Chase because that's very niche as well. We need to definitely see who's qualified for those ones. But any of those 3 markets that have got anything of interest for you want to talk about?
Yeah, Albert Bartlett's always interesting because, it's a race that throws up the biggest priced winners or placed horses out of most of the contests generally, doesn't it? And that's because of the nature of the race. Many of these horses have never gone 3 miles before on such a stamina-laden track as well. So it's just right for horses to improve out of left field, really. And a couple of those that I was similarly keen on, perhaps looking for the Turners, the likes of Sortudo and I'll Sort That. I think they're both really, really strong stayers. I think they're interesting. And a couple of those at a lot bigger wild prices that could potentially play a hand. The Blue Room I thought was interesting for Ollie Murphy. Caught the eye a bit at Sandown behind No Drama this end. Could he suddenly go and improve a chunk up to this kind of trip? Dr. Steinberg, look, I sort of echo your sentiments in terms of he just looked a bit keen and buzzy, didn't he, at the DRF over 2 furlongs shorter, on a stiffer track over that extra distance. Is that going to help? Is his quality going to carry him through? I'm not so sure. I don't think this is a race where classy horses can get away with it like they can sometimes in other races at shorter. So I think if he ran here, I'd be looking to take him on, definitely. I'll be delving into the form of that certainly over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. And it is ripe for a big price as well. And it's not necessarily a frustrating race, but the recent years it's maybe changed a bit more. But in the past, when you've had the likes of Kilbrick and Storm that go and win it, they go and win the December trial at Cheltenham, and you look at it thinking, well, they're a fair price. I actually backed him after the December one. This isn't doing it for a trumpet blowing, but it's actually the opposite. I backed him after the December qualifier at 25-1, thinking that was a great Antepost bet. It was 50s on the day. So with a market like this, especially when you're looking for some of the bigger priced ones, the big price winners are big price winners because they're not supported. The big priced ones that do get supported that end up going short tend to be a bit of the false money stuff, don't they? So there'll definitely be some at bigger prices. It's interesting to see how it all pans out. I do like Dr. Steinberg, to be fair. I think I'm hoping he'll be okay. It's just so much hinges on him, doesn't it? If he settles in the race, you just think, well, he's going to go and win the race. And I know that they were saying that he won't necessarily get the run off the front like he needs to do, but Manila Indo did that when he ran and beat Allaho the time before, just with the donkey out in front, did all the donkey work. Then when it comes to Cheltenham, they leave the horse to go and do it because he's a big price, less respected, and he actually gets it done. So yeah, that is a race that I'm buzzing to try and see if I can find something else. I do fancy Dr. Steinberg, but there's always something at a bigger price as well. Kazansky was one that I looked at and thought was a decent profile enough for the race, I thought. But I think he's just the type of horse that might come up short in there. Of the Gold Cup, Will, I know it's been, I say done to the death. I don't know if it has with us on here because I've not really talked about it too much. I did put up Gaelic Warrior at the start of the season after the Savills Chase run for Galloping de Champs. He was out to 10s or 6 or 7s, I think. And I thought, well, I'll give him a chance because if he makes the comeback and steps forward like he should do, so he ended up being in the book. It's really murky at the moment, though, isn't it? We've not known whether Factor File or Gaelic Warrior will come here, or even either of them. The way that the Ryanair betting's starting to shape up on which changes. Django Bay's going to find himself at the front of the market on the machine. Jukebox Man's in behind. Haiti Couleurs, like you've already put up at a decent price, is 9-1 top price now. I mean, it looks like a really good Gold Cup on paper at this particular point, but I mean, if we lost Factor File, I mean, we wouldn't lose Factor File and Gaelic Warrior. They won't go against you in the Ryanair, but if we lose one of them, it does make a big difference to the race, I think.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. It's very hard to know what's going to play out there, actually. Usually at this stage with these markets, you're kind of sensing what's definitely going to happen. But yeah, Gaelic Warrior and Factor File, just I would have no idea. I mean, I think JP McManus is, above all else, is a sports person, isn't he? So, and you know, I think with horses at the very top level, his stars, you know, he likes to see how possibly good they could be, you know, and how far they can elevate their careers. I mean, you look at John Bon, you know, he's always given him the best chance to go and have a stellar career. And I think with Factor File, on what he did at the DRF, you've got to have a go at the Gold Cup. You know, if he was anyone else's horse, he'd be running in the Gold Cup, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, I would have thought. Yeah. And given the fact that JP McManus doesn't really have an option in that, well, Spilland's Tower, with all due respect, is a nice horse, a good horse. I don't have it in mind that he's going to quite be good enough. I might be proved wrong. Whereas Factor File, you know, if he turns up in that kind of form, he'll be, well, certainly swinging down the hill, he'll be the one they've got to beat. If he is still the one to beat, jumping the last will be another story, given those extra couple of furlongs and the extra stamina influence. But yeah, he's got to run there. I'm still keen on Haiti Couleur, though. I do think I've slightly changed my tack in terms of how I normally like to look at horses and Antepost potential investments with this horse, because he's not really done it yet at that top level. But you just watch him, and I have it really in mind that a better race is actually going to make him better, because he seems to love it when horses are chasing him, like love it when horses are on his hindquarters and he's going from the front and he's being pushed on to do it. And you watch him in the Welsh National. I mean, over the last couple of fences, he was stopping, waiting for others to come to him, and then he went again. And you know, similar to some degree in the Denman Chase. I can't wait to see what he can do at that real top level, because I think that it could be what he's been crying out for. It's the same in the Irish National. You know, good horses one by one were trying to get to him, and he just kept saying, "Sorry, you best pop off back towards the back of the field and let someone else come and have a go." And they just kept trying, and they couldn't. I love how he does it. I really do.
Yeah, I like him as well. And it's a very different year from the year that Mike Bite and Native River went against each other, because they were first and second market leaders, and them two just had their ding-dong battle out in front the whole time, didn't they? On that new strip on the inside, they were both real tight to the rail, but Native River was just not for passing. And I feel like Haiti Couleur's Factor File might be that. They both want to be off the front end. If them two stretch a few lengths between them, I mean, Factor File, I wouldn't be overly concerned about his stamina, even though we know that Haiti Couleur's definitely stays given what he's already done. But I think Factor File will push him the whole way to the line, and that's what Haiti Couleur's needs, isn't he? He needs a good horse to stay with him for long enough. And then those slow closes that will come in from the back, maybe like a Django Bay, they're just never going to be in the race close enough until they're running up the hill after they jump the last, I wouldn't have thought. So yeah, it's a really exciting race. And I love that with the Gold Cup, when it is like this, that it's a race where you don't have the strongest opinions. When it's been Galopin Des Champs the last couple or few years, it's nice to see him. But even when Galopin Des Champs is a 6-4 favourite for this race a couple of years back, I was sat there thinking, I mean, is he actually going to win it or not? And it's the thing, you can never have too much conviction in it. But Factor File, as for me, has to go here. You've got a favourite for a Gold Cup. You should. And as much as Gaelic Warrior, I do think, like when I put him up for this race, I think he'd be fine on it as well. Typically, if it wasn't both Willie Mullins, maybe they would just decide to both run in the race anyway. But Gaelic Warrior's only 8. I know he's been around for ages, but he has got the time, hasn't he, to go and win a Ryanair this year, or go and do well there, have another season going over 3 miles, and he can come back for a crack at the Gold Cup next year. I know Factor File could do the same, but he's got his Ryanair win last year, isn't he? He's used the stepping stone. I think that's what will end up happening with him. But, I mean, if Gaelic Warrior came in there, I'd give him a bit of a chance. But I think they'd have to be a bit more prominent with him, and then there's too much going on. So, yeah, we'll have to see how it all plans out. But I'm really excited about Cheltenham. I'm excited about the Gold Cup. And yeah, I'm excited for the fact that we've got you on the show so we can get some insights. So you've definitely given the viewers some food for thought in there. We'll definitely better wangle a few bets out of that. This is the last one of the Antepost Insight series. The next you'll see from us will be our full-blown Cheltenham Festival preview for each of the races on each of the days. We'll be giving you our best bets through all of those. And then, as Will's already mentioned, we'll find a way in on every single race through the festival. There's some Antepost bets already up. There'll be some daily ones up coming up. Maybe Will's will go out the night before, or even at final decks on the 48 hours. I'll try and get mine out at 8 a.m. just so we've got the use of best odds guarantee. We might lose a bit of value, but hopefully there'll be some strength in the markets with it being Cheltenham week. And yeah, thank you guys for your support. So make sure you drop a like on the video if you've liked the video. Make sure you're subscribed. I've already mentioned this at the start, but we'll say it again. Drop any comments below. If you've got any questions for myself or Will, I'll send them over to Will so we can get them responded when we get through the preview, or we can pick those bits up there in a bit of a Q&A. Or if you've got any bets you think we should be aware of or let the viewers know as well, then drop them in the comments because we get some good pointers from you guys out there too. So once again, thank you for your support, and we will see you again very soon.